record this meeting. Thank you everybody for being here. For those of you who did not know me, my name is Sarah Grillo. Woohoo! And thank you so much for coming to our meetup for the Transparent Advisor Movement. I'm going to turn it over, but I have some important announcements just to go over real quick. And the announcements are that, first of all, if you need captioning for this video or for this webinar, please, there's a box at the bottom. You can turn on the captions if you have hearing difficulties at all. There is a reporter who will be here, Tobias Salinger. Tobias, are you here? Woohoo! I think you are. Anyways, you're probably just on mute. So, oh, he was here. Now he's not. There you are. Okay, yeah, Tobias is muted. Anyways, so Tobias, we welcome you. Thank you so much. This is such an important topic for our industry, and we really applaud you for taking the time to support the transparency movement. Next announcement, Immersion 2025. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. And it's just 1 month away. There will be no virtual meetup next month. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, the link is in the chat. And we have actually just a few spots left. I'm so excited. I've said enough about the event. I think if you want to know more about it, the chat link is there. It's important announcements here. Stephen Fox. Stephen, are you here? I see you. Go ahead. Hey. Stephen Fox just launched a service that would be useful for many of you. Go ahead, just speak for like 2 minutes, but after 2 minutes, I'm going to buzz you. Okay, Stephen? So don't be long.
Sounds good. Yeah, I don't want to take too much time away from Alan and other announcements. I mean, parts of the idea for this came from people in this community, so I know a lot of you are already familiar with it anyway. But so we have a new support platform now that I've been working on for a few months for advice-only advisors. This is the first corporate RIA that's built from the ground up to support the needs of those who are going advice-only. And the idea is we want to make sure that they have everything they need to be able to focus on working with clients. So they just operate as an IAR of our firm instead of having to start a separate RIA. And we have all the tech tools and E&O insurance and admin support and all kinds of other stuff. Part of what we're trying to fix here is I think there are a lot of people who go advice only or other, maybe call this category alternative models, service models, business models. A lot of people start their own firm to do that, not necessarily because they want to be a business owner, but because they just want to work with clients in a way that they feel good about. And a lot of times starting your own firm is the only way to do that. And they end up getting like 2, 3, 4 years that are running their firm and dealing with a whole bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with clients and why they set out on their own in the first place. And this is my attempt to solve that. So we just had RIA registration approved last week, and we're in a soft launch period now where we're accepting the first 10 advisors, but then make sure everything's running smoothly before we take more. So thanks to Sarah and a lot of others here in this group who have helped give me a lot of feedback and help shape what this is going to be over the last few months.
Amen. So Stephen, please put the link to how to contact you and how to learn more about advice only. Okay. For those of you that came in late, Stephen launched an advice only support platform. And I personally think it's pretty awesome. But what can I say? I'm biased because he's my homeboy. Now, next, Katie, are you here? I think that you are.
Yes, I'm here, Sarah.
Hi, is your video on?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, on a second. So Katie is working with me and go ahead, I'll just let you explain what you're doing, okay?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so, well, I'm a consumer actually who had a really bad experience. My family had a really horrific experience a few years ago, and I decided that I was really interested in learning more about the financial advice industry, and so I've had the opportunity to speak with some of you, and I'm looking forward to getting to know a lot more of you just to learn more and to support the work that you all are doing. And so I'll probably talk to some of you about coming to Immersion and looking forward to meeting some of you there as well. Is that enough, Sarah?
Yeah, so that's great. So basically, Katie is working with me to support the Transparent Advisor movement. I've hired her as an independent contractor, and the job is to increase transparency even to me about what your experiences are. What can I do better? And I mean, I always am saying these things when I do my outreaches and when I do my newsletters and things like that. But I think it would be better if we had a one-on-one person that you could talk to, because sometimes even me, like some people might not want to insult me, even though, I mean, some people do want to insult me, and that, you know what, I'm cool with that too. I get that regularly too, okay? But I am soliciting feedback. Katie is she may be contacting you. And having said that, let's get to the feature presentation. Woohoo! Alan, welcome.
Thanks. So I'll just talk for a few minutes and then open it up to questions. Does that seem reasonable?
Yes.
Okay. So a little bit about me. I started my career in public accounting. I'm old, so I worked for a big 8 firm for 2 years. It seemed more like 20, but it was only 2. It was not my calling in life. I went back to business school, got my MBA, did some consulting at McKinsey and Company, corporate finance, and it was not my natural habitat. I I couldn't wait till I had enough money to retire. I lived frugally. I made good money. Um, and Christine Benz, a friend of mine, wrote a great book, How to Retire. I could write a great book, How Not to Retire. I retired about 22 years ago. I lasted darn near a month. I didn't have any interests as far as playing golf or things like that. So I always felt that consumers were being sold annuities at that time, charging 2.5% to manage a portfolio and the underlying fees and the like. So I started a financial planning practice. To me, again, this is just me. There was no choice in what I was going to pick. I was very, very fee conscious in my investing, so I couldn't just start charging people, 1%, even 0.5%. So I chose the hourly model. Um, and, quite frankly, I had a lot of time in my hands. Sarah, I don't mean to brag, but I am the world's worst marketer and salesperson. No one will even come close to me. So I had a lot of time on my hands. I met the dean of the local University of Colorado, Colorado Springs Business School, and I found myself teaching finance. The local business journal came to me and said, "Do you want to write a column for the business journal here in Colorado Springs? They can't pay you anything." I said, "Sure." Next thing I knew, I was writing an undercover column for Money Magazine back when Money Magazine was very large. And then over time, I got at my first year, by the way, I think I had $500 revenue. So it was not an instant success, but it was sheer luck that teaching, writing, um, and financial planning, all kind of converged, and there were a lot of synergies involved. Um, and my practice has morphed over time, things that I think I did right for me. That's not to say that it would be right for anyone. And look, if I started a practice in my 20s, um, with children, a mortgage, et cetera, I would not have been able to choose the hourly model, quite frankly. I think it's easier now. But back when I started 22 years ago, the Garrett Network was out there, and I have a very close relationship with the Garrett Network. They're just wonderful people. But I was never a member of the Garrett Network, in part because I write and such for other media, and I've got to be fiercely independent. So anyways, what worked for me, the hourly model was absolutely right for me. It's not right for everyone. Simplicity. The vast majority of what I do is help clients get from complexity, the tax issues involved in reaching simplicity or moving towards simplicity, is essentially what I do for a living. Um, I'm advice only. Um, I have never had a penny of assets under management other than my own family and my own portfolio, of course. Never taken custody. The only thing worse than no client is a bad client. So I make clients work to get to me. So they've got to fill out a profile, send in some information before I will even talk to them. Another thing I think I did right was networking in the media, being hourly, especially. Uh, we're free to recommend or talk about any product, whether it's a tips ladder. And by the way, the tips ladder is the one thing that violates my keep it simple, stupid simplicity rule. But tips ladder give a wonderful, high, safe spend rate as long as the U.S. government doesn't default on our debt. Um, humor. On the networking, the media. Um, I found the media is always looking for new ideas and such to write about, and just emailing respectfully where I disagree with a column is how I kind of got quoted in the media quite a bit. Humor. Um, my domain name is daretobedole.com, and investing should be dull. I want people to have a very exciting life, but not in their investing. Behavioral finance, I use a whole lot. It's one thing to ask a client, how do you feel if your portfolio lost 40%? It's another thing to ask, how would you feel if you could no longer send your daughter to that prestigious college that she worked all of her life to get into? Try to put that into consequences and the like. I've taught behavioral finance quite a bit. Open source, anything that I do, I write about. For instance, there's an article, 4 easy steps to build a tips ladder. People don't need to come to me for help like that. Um, then, flexibility in writing and teaching, like I said, I was kind of amazed that it was sheer luck that the synergies between writing about investing in finance and teaching investing in finance, and of course, financial planning. And I'm willing to make enemies. For instance, I suspect I am far from Kevin Keller, the CFP board CEO, favorite person. I've been incredibly critical of the CFP board. I joined, first of all, it wasn't very hard because for some reason they allow CPAs to challenge the exam. So it only took a few weeks to get it, but I got it because I wanted to be held to a higher standard. And I think it's absolutely a farce that the CFP board really protects the public. And if you look at how their mission has changed over time, they're not even claiming to benefit the public. But anyway, so that's my model. It's morphed over time. What's happened is the vast majority of my clients are out of state. So the de minimis rule for the vast majority of the states says I can't do more than 5 plans over any 12-month period. So I've registered in California, I've registered in New York, and of course Colorado and Texas, but smaller states and such I haven't done that. I use the de minimis rule, except for states like Louisiana, which don't have the de minimis rule. So, morphing over time, I now do planning as a one-time plan with the goal of being fired. I'm going to brag again, but I have the worst retention in the business because my goal is I won't take a client that I don't think can handle their own portfolio. The laws don't change that much. And if you ask me today what I think the market's going to do, I'm going to say I don't know. If you ask me 5 years from now what the market's going to do, I don't know. So it's rules going forward. So I would argue, by the way, that probably today my clients are know more about investing in financial planning than probably 2/3 of financial planners, or maybe even 90% of financial planners, because 2/3 of financial planners, let's face it, are annuity salespeople working for insurance companies. So that's my model. It's very, very different. I pride myself on being the world's worst salesperson. With work, I have had either a wait list or not taking on new clients since probably 2008. when the financial crisis hit, people learned that, oh my gosh, my advisor really doesn't have me protected against a downturn in the market. So that's my model. It's very, very different. It's not going to work for everyone, but hopefully there'll be some things that I do that will work for you guys.
That's awesome, Alan. Thank you. The chat is sending me some questions here. So I'm just going to start out with what would be the technology setup that you're using?
You're going to love this. I have no CRM. I've tried so many different pieces of financial software, and when I always get weird answers, I go into the assumptions and I don't agree with the assumptions. And even though I can change the assumptions, there's just too much in the model that I don't like in just about every piece of financial software. So the two pieces of software that I use, are you ready for this? MS Word and MS Excel.
Simplicity is the hallmark of the transparent advisor movement, Alan. You belong here with us. Woohoo!
And I'm a math geek, so I mean, my comfort zone is, in a complex spreadsheet. Are there any other
questions? Yep, other questions from the chat. I have other ones, but I'm just pausing to just everyone call out the questions if you have them, okay? Don't be shy.
Could you talk about social media and any recommendations you have for an advisor wanting to reach out using social media, only for education?
Yeah, I'm not a social media expert by any means. I have a Twitter account that, by the way, got stolen. I had to send a letter to the Twitter general counsel to get it back. But LinkedIn, I tweet when I write an article or something like that, maybe a half or a third of the time. But I'm no social media expert. I think I have, I don't know, 12,000 followers or something like that, but I don't tweet all that.
12,000 followers is still more than most people on this call have. So how did you build that up, though, I think is the question.
Oh, I think, probably, yeah, it was just when Twitter came out or LinkedIn came out, I would link a couple of articles and post them. And they were typically my articles, which is probably not the best way to do social media. You want to tweet other people's articles and and build up a following. But my practice has really been on working with clients, and I haven't had a need to get clients for quite some time. And writing, by the way, is kind of therapy for me. When I see things that people are doing wrong, or predator types of sales practices and bad products and the like, I like to write about it. It makes me feel better. And it's not marketing because I get paid for it.
Do you have
This is really great.
method for following up on clients just to see how they've done once you've given them recommendations and so forth, or are they kind of on their own after they say goodbye to you?
They're on their own. Now they can come back for questions and the like, but I'm not cheap. And I raised my fee to $450 roughly 15 years ago. And believe it or not, it's still there. I just feel guilty that I'm charging that much, but I haven't raised it a penny in about 15 years. So when they're paying for this amount, and I make sure that they really understand it, I quiz them and the like, and they come back to me and said, implemented or implemented accept, and usually those accept things are very close calls that I'm absolutely comfortable with. Only maybe twice have I had somebody come back to me and they really got off the wagon and change the portfolio dramatically. So when they're paying thousands of dollars for a plan, they typically implement it. And the process, by the way, is they send in, first of all, they have to fill out the profile. And the profile, I usually need to see the underlying investments, and I'll have the 20-minute meeting with them. In the 20-minute meeting, they are not allowed to, they can say no, but they're not allowed to say yes. They've got to wait at least one day and think about it because it's a very important decision. And then if they want to move forward, they sign a contract. The contract's written in English. It says it's strictly hourly. I don't make any money off of one recommendation over the other. I don't bill you till after the plan. And you have the right to mark cancel on any invoice you don't think you received value from. In 22 years, I've had 0 people cancel the invoice. So then I send them a not so fun data request. It's a lot of information that I need, and schedule a start date. So they send in the information, and I go through their situation, and I give them what are called a document we review typically on Zoom, called preliminary recommendations, which is you're too heavily invested, you're concentrated, those sorts of things. And then they have to make some decisions. And then roughly a week later, I've done the analysis. Here's what you buy, here's what you sell, here are the tax implications, here are rules going forward. We go through that. So there should be nothing in that second document that surprises them because they've already made the decisions. We're going to be 55% in risky assets. We're going to be 2/3 US, 1/3 international, whatever. So there shouldn't be anything in that final document that they disagree with. They're going to give me constraints. I want to hold these stocks, et cetera. I don't want to pay more than X dollars in taxes, things like that, that I'll develop the plan from. We go through it. Oftentimes, by the way, in picking a custodian, more typically pick Fidelity than Vanguard. I'm not a Schwab fan. But Fidelity will pay clients $1,000 per million moved over, which sometimes pays for my entire plan. And then over at Fidelity, the contacts that I have there will help them implement it. But remember, my clients are very, very knowledgeable. Many are financial planners, hedge fund managers, private equity general partners, business school professors. So I'm not... I've got a very biased sample set of clients, not typical.
Okay, I got a ton more questions here, Alan. One of the concerns I've had with the hourly model is the lack of long-term relationships. How many of your clients come back after an hourly engagement, and how often?
Oh, I will have clients come back that I did a plan for 10 years ago, and it's amazing how little I would change in it. I tell clients to come back to me if they inherit some money, if they sell their business, if major changes in their lives. Occasionally I'll have a client that wants a little help in building a tips ladder or something like that, where we'll just do a 1 hour engagement. Because when we did the plan, tips were yielding inflation minus 1.6%. Hey, I can lock in a guaranteed 1.6% real annual loss in spending power. It wasn't all that good back then. Now tips can yield about 2.5%, or about 2.4% above inflation. So there are instances like that, but I tell clients, if markets plunge and you want to rehire me to pay me an hour to tell you not to panic and to rebalance and stick to the plan, stick to the rules, I'll do it. It'll be a lousy use of your money, but I would do it. But again, my model, I am not a life advisor. My model is strictly a financial planner, financial advisor. And the laws don't change all that often. And I have a free monthly email that I've had for, I don't know, 15 years or so, that links to some of my columns that I've written. So when there are changes or when there are new things like that tips ladder almost 2 years ago, they will know my current thinking and see how that fits in, and may or may not want to talk to me about it. But again, my model is not to build an ongoing relationship. Do I keep in touch with a lot of clients? I've got some pretty cool clients, pro athletes, Hollywood, fascinating clients. A lot of entrepreneurs. The wealthiest clients are entrepreneurs, people that started a business. And by the way, none of them started a business to get rich. They started a business to solve a problem and got rich by solving that problem. And I'm not going to get rich with my hourly model, certainly, but when I started my practice, I was more interested in solving a problem than building a large practice. But the reason, by the way, I haven't built a large practice is twofold. Number one, in my corporate days, I was a really good analyst, which got me promoted to management, which allowed me to manage the analysis of a corporation, which got me promoted to be senior officer of a corporation, which was all people management, and that wasn't my strength. That wasn't my forte. That wasn't what got me out of bed. I got to do no analysis after that. So, and the second reason, again, because I have no assets under management, I can't get SEC registered, and registering states is a pain in the tail. New York, California taxes me, even though I have no nexus in California for California clients. So it's kind of a pain in the tail, and that's the reason. The model's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I'm not going to be, a 40-person firm. Now, if you look at all the assets under advisement, it's in the tens of billions. I have clients go from a few $1,000,000 to, in one case, a deca-billionaire. I manage or I advise on only a small portion of his assets, but and I've also found that the sophisticated portfolios were more with tax issues are kind of more fun. But I also feel like I sold out on helping the middle class, which was the original purpose of my practice.
Alan, question came in for the chat. How do you make it scalable?
I don't. I mean, I make, I make as much as most, physician specialties, several $100,000 a year. But it's not scalable. I've decided not to make it scalable.
What's the succession plan? Another question from the chat.
Close the business down. I joke that I can sell it for a percentage of my assets under management. It doesn't matter what the percentage is because my assets under management are zero. Like I said, my model is not for most people, but I see a lot of financial planners, financial advisors, building up AUM so they can sell it for a multiple. Is that really putting the client first? And by the way, if I were really putting the client first, fiduciary says, I need to put the client's interests ahead of mine. I don't need the money. I shouldn't be charging them for a financial plan.
Tobias, are you listening to all this? This is the transparency movement voice here.
Hi,
You don't hear this
Tobias.
anywhere else other than on this web.
Yes, I do have questions. This is great. I was enjoying all of the answers that Helen was giving. It's different, shall I say, than most people I talk to when I hear I don't want to make it scalable, and just closing down the business as a succession plan. I'm interested in, Alan, your thoughts on this and everyone else's thoughts, really. I've spoken with advisors from across the industry, and I see a lot of advisors like yourselves who are giving back to the profession in the way that not only you structure your own business, but in your extracurricular activities like this. And I'm just interested in your thoughts on the status of this fiduciary movement and where it is. We've seen the growth of RIAs, but we know that also poses some complications when it comes to the fiduciary duty. What do you think is the status of this movement, and how does it compare to, say, 20 years ago?
Well, hi, Tobias. You know what a nut job I am. You've known me for quite some time. Um, I bought hook, line, and sinker when I started the practice to be a fiduciary. Um, I have probably seen a huge negative correlation between advisors that tout fiduciary duty and the ugly stuff that they have done. The whole CFP board started with, fiduciary must put the client's interests ahead of their own. Um, it's such I'm not optimistic that financial planning will be perceived as a profession. And I think the CFP board, set that inspiration back a long way. Fiduciary is a really easy word to say, but a lot harder to practice. And look, I will tell you that I've seen brokers at the large brokerage houses have a whole lot more in the way of ethics than RIAs and CFPs that supposedly have that fiduciary responsibility. I think, I'm a big believer that fee for service, whether it be flat fee or hourly, not that it has no conflicts of interest, but has fewer conflicts of interest, that's probably the best hope to turn financial planning into a profession. I mean, let's face it, if I have a client that sells their business $100 million, there are no tax implications. The only two stock funds I would recommend would be a low-cost total US and total international dumb beta. I've never been a smart beta kind of guy. And that's all that they would need. How can I keep on charging for that? Fixed income is a little bit more complex. But yeah, I'm kind of giving a depressing answer to you, Tobias. Sorry about that.
Do you have any way to ensure that your recommendations are implemented by the client?
Well, I tell them if they don't implement it, they will incur the wrath of Roth. They will only wish that a large New York law firm were out to ruin their lives. But yes, I do, we do go back and forth on emails, sometimes another call to make sure that they have implemented, and they send me an email. Do I go back and check? No. But, I'll have contacts at either Vanguard or Fidelity that will help them implement, and they will have the plan. But it's not like the type of thing where they pay $100 for a plan. No big deal. They're paying thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. and they will implement. And like I said, occasionally I didn't do this one thing and I'm like, oh, that's just fine. I manage by guilt.
Another question. Do you use a time tracking tool? How do you quote for your engagements?
Well, what I will do is when they send in the profile, then I'll see the underlying holdings, the tax issues, the complexities of it, what they want to accomplish. And I'll come back and say, my estimate is, 14 to 18 hours. And in the vast majority of times, I'm within that range. Sometimes I'm a little lower. If they come back with some things that they hadn't disclosed, then I'll say, if you want me to look at this, I'm guessing it'll be another 3 to 5 hours or something like that. How do I keep track? I'm generally working on one client at a time. Well, I may work on 3 clients in one day, but I may spend, 2 hours on one client. So I'll just track that time and then I'll realize, well, I went to the bathroom, I, did get one call. So, I'll estimate that was maybe 15 minutes, so I'll write off, I'll lower it by, 20, 25 minutes. But I don't have a button that I push that tracks the exact amount of time. But I almost always come within the range or lower of what I estimated. Believe it or not, in my last exam by the state, oftentimes I will write down some time. And they came back to me and said, you can't do that. I said, okay, from now on, I'll just say I would have written off, 1.5 hours, but the regulator won't let me do it. Of course, they back down.
Another question. As an hourly advisor myself, I'm interested in the integration of behavioral finance. I think it's vital and it can be hard to get people to want to pay hourly for it. How do you integrate behavioral finance into your practice?
Well, one thing I talked about is try to talk about the consequences of what a bear market will be. And all we've had are teddy bears up to this point. I'll give them some behavioral finance questions and the like to talk about. I'll trick them on certain things to show them that the odds are they don't know the odds of things. I talk about how they're going to feel the pain. And then I will often look at someone's portfolio and say, look, you're chasing performance. You bought that ARC Innovation Fund, right after it had done incredibly well. Things like that. We are not logical, rational beings. Somehow when I got my MBA back in 1982, I was taught I was a logical, rational being, supply and demand curve, etc. And that's not we humans.
Alan, this is a great question. What change would you make to your model to make it more scalable or workable for younger advisors who don't have the benefit of not needing money? How do you make career paths in this space? Or is the model only possible for older professionals who don't have to worry about money?
It's certainly not the easiest way to make the most amount of money, but I do believe it could be scalable, especially scalable with clients in the particular state that you're in. You could certainly hire people. Just like a law firm is scalable, quite frankly, or even an accounting firm can be scalable. So it can be done. It just wasn't something that I was interested in. But it certainly isn't scalable like, charging 0.5% of assets and having that money come in every quarter and hiring more people to gather more assets to have more money come in. That's certainly the better model to enrich the advisor.
Next question. Alan, you said you would write contacts in the media when you disagree with articles. Would you expand on this and any other ways you would get quoted in the media?
Well, I think kind of two of the first journalists I've met, which I would still consider incredibly good friends, would be Jason Zweig, now at the Wall Street Journal. He was at Money Magazine, and Jonathan Clements, who was at the Wall Street Journal at the time. So I would read their articles. I would comment respectfully, hey, I really liked it. Have you considered? And before you know it, the phone's ringing, and I'm writing an article on this. I wanted to get your thoughts. So it just, yeah. Not you stupid idiot. You're so wrong. That's not going to get a response. But journalists are always looking for things to write about. And by the way, Jonathan Clements and Jason Zweig are the two people I blame the most for getting me into writing.
Well, I just to add to that, as someone who's a marketing person, I just would say that I always tell my clients, don't pitch the reporter something about yourself. Because he's done here is when Alan reads an article and then he emails the reporter and said, this was inconsistent, or you should have considered this, or I don't agree with this for this reason. He's talking about them. He's talking about them and their agenda. He's not talking about his own agenda. Oh, I just launched this product. Or, oh, my firm got 50 advisors and we have assets under management. We did this performance. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. He's speaking to what they need to do to work better for their audience. And the words, he is using the words that they expressed. And he's offering them ways to make them better. That is why that is an effective strategy. Everybody do it.
Yeah, I'm giving them ideas of other things to write about. So it's a respectful, really liked your column, blah, blah, blah. Have you considered, X, Y, Z? So I'm giving them ideas and such to write about. I'm not looking at, when Jim Cramer writes, here are 3 hot stocks to buy now. I'm not bothering writing him, although I am very proud to have been chewed out twice by his senior vice president of media relations. Told me that he's read everything I've written about him. I'm like, thank you.
Another question. Do you share your Excel spreadsheets with clients, or do they get a Word document with your recommendations? How many pages on average is that document?
Well, I'd say on average, the document is, on average, it's probably 25 to 40 pages. It's not a real thick, spit out a bunch of detail, because I think the more detail you have, the less accurate things are going to be. Do I give the spreadsheet to the client if the client wants it? Absolutely. But it will come with an email that says, this is not meant for client software. Use it at your own, use it very carefully.
Could you talk about what technology you use for archiving client communications, specifically emails, and also your website?
The documents are stored, offline and on the cloud with proper security and the like. My website, there's really nothing to steal on my website. It's brochure. I don't.
Well, I guess so I'm not a compliance expert. I'm starting my own business, and one of the things the compliance consultant said is you need to have a separate archive for all emails, which are client communications, and then your website has to be archived as well, other than on the platform itself that hosts your website. So I didn't know if you had a method for that, or how you accomplished that.
It's archived, and it's got an SSL. It's archived on a hard drive. An SSL certificate, etc. But it's not. It's not a website where they're going to log in to get data on their portfolio, since I don't custody anything. It's strictly a brochure.
Great. And then emails, do you have a specific method for archiving emails?
Yeah, they're all saved, on a hard drive. When I'm examined, the regulator will say, I want to see all communications. I'll have to give them a list of clients. They'll pick however they pick those clients, and I'll have to turn over those emails. Everything else is my agreement is strictly confident. It's a confidential relationship, but it certainly says that, if a regulator requests data, that I provide it to them.
Great, thank you.
But it's really easy to pull up, every email that if you want the email on, Susan Smith, maybe not the best name. I can easily get every single email in a matter of, I don't know, 30 seconds.
Do you bill clients for questions after plan delivery, or do you only restart billing clients at a future plan review?
If it's literally, 5 or 10 minutes worth of questions, I'm not going to bother billing for it. It's just not worth my time. But, if it's, 45 minutes, 2 hours, yes, I will bill for that. But my agreement is only good for 1 year. And again, that's because states would look at, if I had open agreements, and I had open agreements with, 6 clients in Pennsylvania, let's say, where I'm not registered, I use the de minimis, I would be in violation. So, unfortunately, if the client comes back and wants a 1-hour tune-up, I've got to send them a new agreement.
You mentioned Fidelity offers your clients money to move over. How can we offer the same thing to our clients, not seeing any public offers?
Go to Fidelity. Any client can go to Fidelity and say, I've heard you have an acquisition award, and it's typically, $1,000 per 1 million. It's not the Robin Hood move your IRA 3% sort of thing. But yeah, you can go to them. I tell my clients that are, and more clients custody at Fidelity than Vanguard. Vanguard is improving customer service. I've gotten to know the new CEO. He was a McKinsey alumni at the consulting firm I worked for. And they're improving their digital presence, and their customer service is getting better, but it still lags Schwab and Fidelity. But I tell clients, use me as the bad guy. We hired this guy, Alan Roth. He wants to, he's a Vanguard fan, but I've heard that Fidelity has an acquisition award. So if you have a $5.5 million portfolio, they'll pay you $5,000. Just ask them, acquisition award. And if the advisor isn't going to volunteer it, the Fidelity rep isn't going to volunteer it. So you have to ask for it.
Question. Do you worry past clients not realizing they should have reached out to you due to life change because they're not seeing you on a regular basis?
No.
Why not?
Again, the clients are pretty wealthy. So we're not really, doing something that's going to impact their life. Now, the one thing that I will say is, if it's a couple, and let's say the woman is the CFO and the guy, isn't involved. And for that reason, by the way, when I do a plan for a couple, both spouses have to agree to be part of the process. But if, the wife dies and she's the one that really understood it, and the guy really doesn't want to have any involvement in the plan, then I would recommend something like Vanguard Personal Advisory Services, a low-cost AUM. I don't believe in the AUM model, but something like that, they might come back to me and I might say, I think at this point you'd be better off with a low-cost AUM model.
Next question. Have you ever shared a sample financial plan on general guidance on how you structure your plans?
Never. I will sometimes get somebody that says, can you share a sample plan? And my answer is no, because there is no sample plan. It doesn't come off of a piece of software. Every plan is very different, incredibly different. And of course, what I will tell them is the fact that the agreement will say that you have the right to mark cancel on any invoice. That's how you know that you're not going to be charged $9,000 to do a worthless plan. And by the way, it wouldn't be very good for my reputation if I told you that, I'm estimating between $8,000 and $9,000 and I bill you $20,000 for a worthless plan that says lower costs, increased diversification, and hire an attorney to sue you. It wouldn't be really good for my reputation. So one of the things that I think I did right was giving not billing till after the plan, and giving them the right to mark cancel.
Why don't you like Schwab?
I think it was for Financial Planning magazine, Tobias. I once wrote a column that 130% of their pre-tax profit came from net investment income. That's paying clients virtually nothing for their cash and then them reinvesting that cash. Schwab had it's in my book, How a Second Grader Beat Wall Street. They came out with this ultra short bond fund, safe alternative to a money market fund, and it was safe until it lost more than half of its value and lawyers got involved and such. So I don't trust Schwab as much. Schwab, the article I think I wrote for Financial Planning magazine was essentially saying Schwab was no longer in the financial advisory business. They were in the cash gathering business, lost leaders to get cash to pay nothing. Fidelity is a little bit below Vanguard, but much, much closer to Vanguard, as far as what they pay on cash. And of course, as Jack Bogle, who I got to know, reasonably well, a wonderful man, put it, you can't be masters to both clients and shareholders. You can't put them both first. Of course, Fidelity isn't public, but it's for profit. Fidelity, I've always seen do the right thing. Truth be told, I started my indexing back in the late 80s. I was sleeping under a rock or something. I hadn't heard of Jack Bogle and Vanguard. So I started my indexing with Dreyfus and Fidelity. Now, Fidelity did the right thing. They kept lowering fees and even lower than Vanguard right now. Whereas Dreyfus trapped money in there, raised fees, and Dreyfus, of course, became extinct except for money markets. What was left of it got bought by BNY Mellon.
Hey, Alan, there's 4 minutes left, and I have to ask you something. You've had tremendous success. You charge a high rate. You have tons of attention and interest from wealthy people. Awesome. What would you say to somebody who is not at that point, who's passionate about this, is burning up? What would you tell them to do? What are 3 things you would tell them to do when they maybe are not in the same financial position as you?
Yeah, I would say number one, you're better than me. I help rich people get rich. I think the more noble is helping middle class get to retirement. I would say, persevere. Do some of the things like, like read articles in the Wall Street Journal and send in an email. Hey, I liked your article. Have you considered, things like that. But, it takes a while. Persevere, and then maybe, well, like I said, I had a whole lot of extra time on my hands when I started my practice. So I wasn't teaching philosophy, I was teaching investments. I wasn't writing about the meaning of life. I was writing about, investments and financial planning. So other things that are related to bring in a little income as you build the practice, I think is worthwhile.
Okay, so everybody who's listening to that, I didn't say that because it's what I do for a living, but I have a free newsletter where I publish one marketing tip a day, actionable, and it's there. And I have a ton of free blogs on my website. So if you're struggling to grow your practice, I'm not selling you here. There's a free resource that you'll get an email from me every day. And I also publish it on LinkedIn. If we're not on LinkedIn, please connect with me. Okay, there's no reason that you can't grow your practice. If you follow my tips, you'll be able to grow your practice. Okay.
And I think it's easier hourly and flat fee than it was when I started. I think more people appreciate it. And when I started my practice, I had to explain to somebody what an index fund is and why you don't want to pay somebody a lot of money to try to beat the market, which was a zero-sum game. Back then I had to, somebody would turn over their portfolio. I would benchmark it against the indexes and show them how bad they've done. So it's easier today than back then. Today there's more money in stock index funds than active stock funds. So
another question. Sorry. I'm sorry, Alan.
people are more aware. Go for it, Sarah. Sorry.
Okay, so I have to wrap this up here. Oh, the questions are actually still coming in on the chat, Alan. I have to go to another meeting, so I have to end this, but we'd love to have you back. Everybody, if you're questioning coming to the immersion, this is the kind of stuff that it is, okay? And I know that I'm biased. I'll admit it. I'm biased because the immersion is my creation. I have a lot of pride in what I do. But what I can say is that a lot of times people say there's conflicts, and I think a lot of times the conflicts can be worked through. And I've intentionally structured it so that it wouldn't be the biggest investment of your money. There's a lot of transparency about the costs. I published what the costs are for the conference. Who does that? I mean, go ask Charles Schwab what the impact conference cost them. And last year I had $200 over that I only netted $200 before taxes, and I didn't include any of my personal expenses in that. This is what the immersion is. It's this kind of, that's why I named it that, immersion. And even if you can't go, I'm not happy with the level of participation on social media of some of the members of this group, because I'd like these questions to be answered. I'm constantly frustrated when I hear advisors having problems that other advisors in this group can answer for free on social media. It's all on LinkedIn. And if you can't, then you can come to a meetup for free and have an answer. I've tried my best to remove the barriers as much as I possibly can. Okay, so take advantage of immersion if at all possible. I think you should get there, but like I said, I'm biased. And if you can't do that, you could talk to me. I could put you personally in touch with other advisors in this group. There is no reason that we cannot be Alan Roth, that we cannot be Rick Ferry, that we cannot be Jamie Menges of PDS Planning. We cannot be Scott Selasky. Hi, Scotty. Okay, of First Metric, and numerous other advisors. There is no reason, okay, because I know the internet like the back of my hand, and I don't take no for an answer. Many of you might have noticed that so far, okay? So even if you have a marketing question, like I said, I have free resources, and I'm really looking to punch hard here. And I think we all have to punch harder, okay? It's not going to come easy, like Alan said. But having said that, I have to end the meetup to go to another meeting with my son's school. Okay, everybody?
Can I have 10 seconds?
Yeah.
10 seconds. You are the good guys. You are the best hope for financial planning to be viewed as a profession to help the public. I'm honored to be here.
Amen. We're honored to have you. Thank you. Okay, everybody. Godspeed. I'm ending the webinar now. Bye.